welcome back to my channel. Right now is my favorite part of the year where I get to talk about my favorite book of the year. I read 75 books in total. I only gave 12 books 5 stars. So these are my favorite books of this year in the specific order. I do want to point out I gave this book a 5-star, but I did not include it in the list because number 12, I gave it a 4 stars. I think it took more to me than this book. This was still amazing. It has a song at the beginning of each chapter, and I feel like listening to the song while reading the chapter make the experience so much better, and the songs were so perfect for each moment. Also, I want to point out that this year I became more picky with my readings, and I also realized that my reading taste is changing. I feel like I'm kind of over romances and I'm more into literary fiction and just like other genres, which you'll definitely see a little bit of a trend with my favorite books of this year. But I do have an honorable mention, which is Carrie Soto's Back. This is my favorite book of all time. It's an honorable mention because this was a reread. This book truly changed my life. I used to hate tennis. Even my best friend growing up, she would like beg me to play tennis with her, and I will not do it. So the fact that a book made me change, and in general, this is one of those books that once you read it, you think like, oh my gosh, this was a great book, and then just forget about it. And then as time goes by, you keep thinking of Carrie. Carrie is like whenever I'm like don't want to do anything, or like I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, I think of Carrie and like, what would Carrie do? I think her mentality really stuck out to me, and I do believe I became a different person because of this book, which is why it's my favorite book of all time. Let's actually start. On number 12, we have the book that was 4 stars, but I actually think about it a lot, and I will recommend it to a lot of people, and it's also not that much talked about. It's called The Good Part by Sophie Cousens. I would recommend this book to anyone who is in their 20s and want to just keep to that good part of their life where they have everything figured out. They have a stable job, they have a relationship, they have kids. I felt so identified with the main character. She's me, I am her. I actually got teary-eyed. A book never makes me cry, but that book did make me teary-eyed at the end because I related so much with her, and I also felt conflicted as she did. I think this is a book I needed that I didn't even realize it at the moment, but it was so good for me. Something that I realized is that like I don't think I like romances that much anymore, because normally the couple is like leading up to them becoming a couple, but I hate when they become a couple and then the story ends. I want to see them just being a happy couple and figuring life together, and this is the perfect portrayal of like it's just people being married and like figuring life together, and the support and love, everything that they have for each other, that really was so sweet to read. So I think it has like a lot to teach. Honestly, everyone in their 20s should read this book. It was so awesome. The next book is The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden. I remember reading this book. I wrote a whole essay on my review on this book, but the book is The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden. I actually went through a Freida McFadden phase last year. I remember in October, November, I read like 12 of her books. I think I overdid it because I definitely started like becoming more predictable and guessing what was gonna happen. I decided that maybe I was just over my Freida McFadden phase. However, this year I did not read any thriller mysteries whatsoever, and I did heard great things about this one. I decided to give it a try. I started listening to it on Audible. I remember I would start making my drives longer just so I could keep listening to this book because it was that good. I don't know, I heard bad things about it, and I genuinely don't know why this was a 5-star book for me. It was amazing. It's a past and present timeline. You might start to notice like some connections between now and then, but what I really love about this book is that like you felt like the main character and you had so many theories. I had so many freaking theories. Even though I was very close at the end, I still was not able to guess this book. I think this is a perfect book for like a book club. You all comparing theories and everything. I thought it was so much fun, and I actually made my friend read it and she told me her theories because I wanted to see her thought process when she was reading this book. This is definitely my favorite Freida McFadden book. Number 10, I have The Exception to the Rule by Christina. This was a novella, like a holiday Valentine special that they wrote for it. It's basically these two people that they met by like an error. Like this girl sends an email to this guy thinking he was like the professor or something like that because they have the same last name, and they just start talking back and forth the same day on Valentine's Day for like 10 years or something like that. It reminded me a lot of Love and Other Words by Christina. I love this book, and also You Got Mailed, but I love that movie, but this book made it even 10 times better. The first half of the book is just them sending emails back and forth, and then the other half is when they actually get to meet in person. And I remember when I finished that book, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna cry myself to sleep because I'm never gonna find something like like that. So as this book says, say what you need. This book is perfect. It's called A Gentle Reminder by Bianca Sparacino. It's like a poetry life advice, and I genuinely highlighted every single page of this book. It's just lots of advice on different things in life. What I decided to do, I created this index, categorize all the advice that she's giving on the page, and I think this is a perfect book to put as a coffee table book, but done properly. First of all, it is beautiful, so it's perfect, but then also it will allow guests to just go into the index and then literally take what they need based on the advice that they're looking for. Next, we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. I read this one in April, and this was my first 5-star of the year. I honestly thought I was having the biggest reading slump of my life, and I think this actually became my favorite Emily Henry's book. What I love about this book is that, first of all, they became friends before like jumping into a relationship. This book was also so much more than a romance. You get to see so many characters and other things that happen. We see a friendship developing between the female character and another female character, which is so interesting because like we got to see the beginning of the friendship and evolving and like going through life, which was so cool. I literally absorbed so much knowledge from Emily Henry from this book, and it made me think a lot about my life, which I think that's a good sign of a book. And I was very sad when that book ended. It's also perfect for the summer. Honestly, out of all Emily Henry's books, I think that's the epitome of a summer romance, which is very interesting because she has like Beach Read. That's not a summer book at all. They went to the beach once and they hated the beach. So if you want to read an Emily Henry summer book, that's the one you should. I also love Miles. I thought he was like the perfect person. Like their communication was great. He was slow to anger. His actions for himself. And a lot of people were comparing him to Nick Miller from New Girl, which I love him. And I did see it at the beginning. But also I feel like he also gave his own spin towards the end. Also, I'm so happy the book ended the way that I predicted it because it's called Funny Story. Oh, how do you guys met? Haha, funny story. Because I thought it was going to end like that. And Emily Henry knew what she was doing. And she ended it exactly how I wanted to end it. As number 7, we have Summer Romance by Annabel Monaghan. This book, I actually buddy read it with Rubab, which we thought for the longest time we were cursed because every time we tried to read a book together, it was like the worst book and we ended up both DNFing it. But this was the first book and only book that we have read together that it was amazing. This is literally everything that I want in a romance book, and I feel like if I ever would write a romance book, it would be like this. I love how the romance started from the beginning. Like there was just no drama, not unnecessary conflict, but just rather life happening, which remind me a lot of the quote of marriage isn't hard, it's life that is hard. And I feel like this book described that quote perfectly, and this is exactly how the romance felt. I also like that the author didn't end the book with the couple being together. As I said, that's like my biggest pet peeve in books. She made us see them being happy and like going through life together for like 10 more pages, which I really appreciate. I also was invested in all of the themes going through the book. Again, it was just so much more than romance. You just see two people trying to figure out life together and how they can fit the relationship into all those life problems and things happening into life. If I remember properly, I think she just recently got divorced and she has kids. Just the way that the romance is described is just perfect, and I really recommend this book as a romance book for anyone. This is also a perfect summer romance. It gave the vibe. So as number 6, we have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is actually the second book of the series Once Upon a Broken Heart. I think these are the prettiest books I own. These are so pretty. These are the UK cover. A fun fact is that if you go to Blackwell's, you get every UK book. They're cheaper than in the US, and it's free shipping for all of their books, which I think is insane. Anyway, I did choose the second book. They're all amazing, but the second book was my favorite one from the series, and also the only one I gave a 5 stars. I think I gave the first one a 4.75 and then this one like a 4.5, so like they're still very good. But I highly recommend this series to everyone. This was so cute. It's a YA fantasy. It's also like a spin-off of Garber, so there's like this huge debate on whether you should read Garber before reading this series. I did. I pushed through Garber. It wasn't my favorite series, but I do think by reading that one, it makes this experience so much and 10 times better, especially because you get to meet my favorite character, which is Jax. You just get to see his backstory and everything that he's going through, so like reading it in these books makes the experience 10 times better, so I do recommend it. Again, it's not like necessary. I just love this story so much. I love Jax so much, and also Evangeline, first of all, her name, but then reading her main character point of view was so refreshing, because again, in Carvel, I didn't like the main character's point of views, but this one was so good. I remember being emotionally unwell after Further Notice, so I don't know how people had to wait a year after reading this book, because that ending will have broke me, and I don't know how I'll have recovered. So I'm very glad that I waited when all the 3 books were out. Then I have Pilgrim Productivity by Ali Abdaal. This is a book that I bought on Audible for like the longest time, and I just like never pushed myself to read it, and I'm so sad I didn't. If you're ever gonna read any self-help books, I feel like that one is the one that you should. It summarizes perfectly all self-help books, because if you don't know, Ali Abdaal is like this YouTuber that I have followed for years, and I follow his advice religiously. Everything that man says, I believe him, and he loves reading self-help books and everything. He literally made the perfect book of like summarizing all those books into just one. He switched it into a new perspective, how feeling good is like the most important thing in order to become productive, hence the title Feel Good Productivity. In the acknowledgements, he thanked Jack Edwards. So I don't know if it's the Jack Edwards, like king of book talk, but in general, again, if you're reading any self-help book, let it be that one. As number 4, we have The Story Life of AJ Fikry. This book was something else. I remember I didn't want to read this book because I did read Tomorrow by Gabrielle, and I just did not get the hype, so I came in with this book with very low expectations, but it was amazing. I think the best way of going through this book is just going in blindly, but what I will say is that the writing, Gabrielle knows exactly how to write. It's so interesting. She could be like writing, and in the middle of a paragraph she will switch perspective, but she does it so seamless. And like sometimes she even includes like a random person that is like on the outside, and you see how they're perceiving this scene. It's so refreshing. The pacing of the book was perfect, and honestly I never knew where the plot was heading, and I think that's what made it even more magical. This book was definitely a warm hug, and now I definitely want to live in the fictional world of Alice Island, surrounded by all these fictional characters. I love the movie too, and I think I would love to watch it with my parents and with my sister, and it also made me very teary-eyed toward the end. The movie was also great. Obviously the book is so much better, but I think the movie did made a great way of describing this book. Do yourself a favor and read this book. Now we're going to the top 3, which honestly was so hard to rank them. Kind of not. Honestly, in general, I love all the books that I mentioned in this book. Number 3, we have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was the biggest bingo card for me because it's sci-fi, and I did read Red Rising and I didn't like it as much, but I think this book made me want to become a sci-fi person. This book is actually very heavy on the sci, which I kind of love it though, but it's one of those books that you have to like use your brain power a lot. Even the first page of the book is the picture of a centrifuge. I do love physics. You don't have to do any of this. Like there's some parts that you don't have to understand. I just really wanted to make sure that I understood everything. But like for example, at some points I just like did math equations just because I want to like double check with the main character. You don't have to do this. This is just me being nerdy. The pacing of this book was amazing. You follow Ryland, this person that wakes up in the middle of space by himself. He doesn't know why he's there, what's happening, or anything. He starts discovering things and getting memories back exactly when he needs it. Just the pacing was genuinely amazing. Like I remember I was just like, okay, I'm done with this, I can like move on, and then they will switch back immediately. Like they'll give you the exact information that you needed. Also, remember when I said Jax was one of my favorite fictional characters? Rocky definitely took the lead. Once you guys meet Rocky, these books become 10 times better. I think about him way too often. I also heard the audiobook is like one of the best audiobooks that I can imagine. I think I'm gonna listen to the audiobook like in a year from now. This book was just great. As number 2, we have Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. It's a memoir, but it's written by Mitch. Mitch is this person that he had this college professor called Morrie. They always, for some reason, hang out on Tuesdays. He was his favorite professor. He graduated from college. He said he was going to keep in touch. He didn't. Morrie became diagnosed with ALS. That basically just makes your muscles weaker and it makes it harder to walk, to move, to breathe. It's the disease that Stephen Hawking had. Mitch sees on the news and decided to pay his old college professor a visit. From there, like the book actually starts. Then Morrie decided like we're about to start our final college assignment, which is just called life, and they decided to meet every Tuesday when Morrie will have a different topic to discuss that day. And this man Morrie, he's so wise. I love to listen his point of view of life, and his mentality is something I aspire to have. I do believe that Morrie is gonna stay with me for a long time, and in general the way that they executed this book was perfection. And this is one of those books I do believe everyone should read it. I have these 2 quotes just to give you like an idea of what the book is. So he's talking about like aging and how people like think that they hate and they're scared of aging. Aging is just not a decay, you know, it's growth. It's more than the negative that you're going to die. It's also the positive that you understand you're going to die and you live a better life because of it. And then he was just talking about how like people normally say like, oh, I wish I were young again. Never hear people say, I wish I were 65. And Morrie said, you know what that reflects on Satisfy's life? unfulfilled life that haven't found meaning. Because if you have found meaning in your life, you don't want to go back, you want to go forward, you want to see more, do more. He also talks about emotions. You just let them come to you, you let them feel them, and then you just accept them for what they are. Like say that you're feeling envious, you're feeling sad, you're feeling anger, let it feel the emotion for what it is and then let it go. The example of like, that's envy, I'm going to separate from it now and walk away. This phrase, you have to find what's good and true and beautiful in your life as it is now. Looking back makes you competitive, and age is not a competitive issue. And then I also really like this part. So he was mentioning like whenever he met people in his life that always wanted to like show and brag what they got. Morrie says, you know how I always interpret that? These were people so hungry for love that they were accepting substitutes. They were embracing material things and expecting a sort of hot bags. It just never works. Like genuinely, mic drop. In general, this book is so wise. He talks about creating your own culture and like not following society's rules of like power, fame, and money. And it's also so much more about that. He talks about health, marriage, just everything. And I highly recommend everyone to read this book. I normally have this rule of giving books a 6 stars after at least 3 months have passed. I read this book in December. It's still not a 6 stars, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna become a 6 stars in the future. And then my only 6-star book that I have this year is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is my favorite romance book of all time. First of all, it has my favorite book boyfriend of all time. Justin is literally the perfect man for me. I don't think any other book boyfriend would even come close to him. At some times, I was even getting very jealous of Emma for like experiencing a Justin in her life. This book is also so much more than a romance, and it's a roller coaster of emotions. I love how Abby Jimenez always talk about like a serious topic in a book, and I think she did it perfectly in this one. I really like to read the author's notes that she writes at the end of like all the research that she do, like put it in this book. This is part of the Part of Your World series, which I have right here. I do recommend reading them all together. Honestly, they're all amazing. They all tie them so perfectly at the end together. This book just genuinely hit different. I literally tap everything. I normally don't tap my books, but there's so many quotes that live rent-free in my head from this book that I could genuinely talk for hours and hours. I'll just read you my favorite quotes from this book. One is, you were not asking for too much, he said. You were just asking the wrong person. Ask me instead. And my favorite quote that I think religiously about it, and I feel like at this point I have read it so many times that I can like recite it out of memory. This is also from Justin's point of view. Like, this is how he perceives love. Jimenez, the woman you are for writing, Justin. Anyway, the love story told us the wrong thing. The best kind of love doesn't happen on moonlight walks and romantic vacations. It happens in between the folds of everyday life. It's not grand gestures that show you how you feel. It's all the little secret things that you do to make her life better that you never tell her about. Taking the end piece of the bread at breakfast so she can have the last middle piece for her sandwich when you pack her lunch. Making sure her car always has gas so she has never to stop at the pump. Telling her that you're not cold when you take your jacket when you're packed very, very cold. Is watching TV on a rainy Sunday while you're doing laundry and turning her lights off when she's fallen asleep reading. Sharing pizza across and laughing about something that the kids did and taking care of each other when you're sick. It isn't glamorous, it isn't all butterflies and stars in your eyes. It's real. This is the kind of love that forever is made of. Because if it's this good when life is draining and mundane and hard, think of how wonderful it will be when the love songs are playing and the moon is out. This is the perfect definition of love, of how literally it's just made of the small moments in life. I think that's what I love about romance book, when they're just like being a couple and being alive together. Like, it doesn't have to be some romantic gestures, just a tiny little moment in life. Everyone should read this book, and I will genuinely will not accept any criticism about this book. I love it so much that I have a copy of this book. I never buy doubles, but I wish I knew about this copy before, because it has drawings on it and I was like, I have to get it. You guys can see. Now I want to go to Minnesota just because of Abby Jimenez. She really sold me Minnesota in this book and I want to go so badly. But these are all my favorite books of the year. The only 5 stars I ever rated of 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I genuinely loved it. I could jab about my favorite books for years and years. So you guys can also watch my 75 all the books that I read in a year and me reading all of them. I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye!